transform you into an individual who is compassionate and kind and say, look, I'm not going to just sit there like a lazy couch potato. I'm going to work. I'm going to earn my money. And if my brother needs help, I will help him. I will help her.
كن سعيدا كن فريدا عش بفخر في الحياة لا تبالي.
It doesn't exist without a desire.
The reality is the universe is not self-conscious.
So what?
I only opened my mouth and haven't finished my sentence yet. Okay?
So what?
You see, if you let me finish, then you will understand why. Do you understand?
No, but it's not. Let's carry on.
So, the universe is not believed by atheists, scientists, humanists, secularists, or agnostic to be something that possesses consciousness, self-awareness, intelligence, will. Yeah, 4 qualities. They don't believe any of that. So the universe doesn't have a brain of any kind. Because we say brain to someone like a biological system, which thinks and organizes and plans and reflects and so on, right? So when we say about awareness, something that is making you aware that you're in existence, that you have knowledge of yourself and your surroundings. Okay, so the universe doesn't have any of that. It doesn't even know that it exists. It doesn't have this awareness that it exists. Neither it has the will to do something, because it doesn't know that it exists. It can't do anything. It doesn't have the power to do anything. So this universe doesn't have any of these things for it to do anything, because it's simple.
Willingly.
This universe doesn't have a will.
It doesn't need one.
Because it doesn't have a will,
It needs a will.
so it cannot do anything by itself.
It does.
Why does it need a will to do something?
Things just happen.
When the universe does something, does it know what it's doing? Does it know?
What is it?
So it does things not knowingly. Let's understand.
Everything is round.
Brother, just understand one thing. Universe does certain things. Does it know it's doing it?
No.
It's not. So how do you know the universe is doing it?
It is doing it. You can see it.
No. Just is, it's not an explanation.
You can see it doing it. Yes, again.
No. Just is, it's not an explanation. If I say that my proof that God exists is He exists, it just is. Would you accept that as an explanation, a proof? Would you?
No.
Right. So I am not going to accept your "it just is" as a proof or an explanation. So now tell me, please kindly, why do you say the universe is doing things that you claim it does?
Quantum physics.
Sorry?
You understand quantum physics. Quantum physics explains it all.
Quantum physics.
Why?
So I have to now assume you understand quantum physics, right?
Reasonably well.
Good.
Well enough.
Okay. If some things are not in existence, very important, I want you to focus on it. If some things like particles, virtual particles, like not particles, subatomic particles, or even if you break down, gluons, hadrons, leptons, sorry for the jargons, right? Okay, these are very, very tiny. Okay, we're talking about in terms of quarks and so on. My knowledge of subatomic particles, excuse me, please, it's not very good because I am not a physicist, okay? But one can read about it if they want to. So, if those things were non-existent in the first place, non-existent means they did not exist at all. Can they pop into existence while they were non-existent?
If there's energy available, yes. I think virtual particles can pop into existence temporarily.
Sorry?
Very quickly.
So if they're non-existent, meaning they did not exist, you know what that means? Let me tell you what is a non-existence, an example of a non-existence. Do you know what this rock dream of?
What?
What does this rock dream of?
That's a dream of anything.
Nothing. This rock dreams of nothing. That nothing, we know, is a non-existent thing. This rock dreams of something that doesn't exist, because rocks don't dream. So that nothing, imagine it was nothing like that to begin with. Non-existence, nothing. Can this nothing bring itself into existence and become all these quantum particles?
Apparently it can't fit here.
I'm saying, can it?
Yeah, that's the
According to your physics and quantum physics.
Apparently it can.
how?
Here.
How?
Brother, one moment, please. If something...
No.
It can because we're here, which means we believe in God.
No, it's a problem with God.
Listen.
If you think God exists, you're saying that something does exist.
Excuse me.
God is a something.
I want to really... I want you to focus on this point.
I understand the question. I understand it fine when I think about this one. Because the problem is,
Can I have your answer
we
again?
don't know how the universe came into being. We don't know that.
That's not my question.
This
Don't
is.
create a strawman argument. Logical
No,
fallacy.
no,
You see,
no,
people's
but-
comfort zone is creating strawman arguments and saying, you know what, and soon I can guarantee he'll move into evolution, because that's another comfort zone. What I asked you, with all due respect, is something like this: if something is non-existent, it doesn't exist at all. It's absolutely nothing, absolute nothingness. Can this absolute nothingness then do something or become something?
No, it can't be here. It must be.
How? Tell me now through
We don't
the...
know how.
No, tell me, listen,
The universe can exist.
excuse me,
It does exist.
listen,
No.
tell me, brother, patience.
And you're saying exactly the same about
Tell me, from your knowledge of quantum physics,
No, what you're saying
how non-existent can become existence.
because virtual particles do pop in and out of existence for nothing.
You're absolutely mistaken. You haven't understood Professor Lawrence Krauss's argument. I have confronted him directly, in person, went to him, I asked him, I'm paraphrasing, it happened a long time ago. Why do you deceive people by saying the universe came from nothing, when your nothing is not nothing, is something? He says, I explained it in my book. My nothing is something that I explained. So, listen, my friend, the physicists do not believe in absolute nothingness. This absolute nothingness does not exist in physics. Do you understand that?
All right. Okay. Let's
Excuse me, let me ask you again. Do you understand absolute nothingness does not exist in physics?
Okay, right.
Then you cannot say quantum physics and quantum physical theories explain non-existence can become existent. It simply cannot, because it doesn't believe there is something called absolute nothingness. Physics cannot deal with that. There is no equation to deal with that in physics. Physics cannot deal with that. It's beyond physics. You go into metaphysics. So you cannot talk about something that you have no knowledge of, my friend. In fact, what you're doing is just showing that, okay, you have...
All you're doing, and this is
It's not what I'm doing.
fails.
So I want to know...
You basically have to say, right, we don't know how the universe came into existence.
That's not my question. No, that wasn't my question at all.
It is. That's exactly
No,
what you lead
that's
to.
Another strawman argument.
What you lead to.
No, another strawman argument.
not.
I said
That's exactly
this universe does not have a will or consciousness,
So what?
and then you give this universe that it gathers together, organizes together, and it develops things even better, progressively better. It plans. That's what you believe. You believe. Hang on. You believe this universe does all these things and does things. You call this universe Mother God, nature, because nature doesn't demand from you to worship the Creator. That's why you take the two options. Who am I? Listen. Who am I going to take? God, who says, be kind, be just, don't deceive, don't lie, don't be selfish, don't, utilize usury, and don't gamble, don't rape, don't watch pornography. And Mother Nature doesn't say any of that. You'd go for Mother Nature, because Mother Nature is with you and your interest and your feelings and your desires. But yes, I make that claim.
I want to go to paradise.
Listen.
I want to live forever.
So let me.
Nature tells me I'm going to die. I'm dead.
Listen. This universe.
I want to believe I'm going to live forever.
Listen.
Do not tell me I'm against.
Okay. Let me ask him the same question.
Against God.
What would convince you? What would convince you that there is a creator of this universe?
Well, if, and this has not happened, if there were thousands of prophets over the world in the past, and they all speak the same message, that would convince me.
What would convince you now?
Nothing. It's too late. It's too late.
Okay. So basically now we've found an individual like yourself.
It's too late.
A thinking individual. He says, the thing that will convince me that there's a creator, there is nothing to convince.
Yeah, it's too late now.
Remember what I said? There are people who are not, and they're reluctant to engage with any evidence. If there were compelling evidence that there is a creator, would you believe?
Okay, yeah, sure. Yes.
You just contradicted yourself.
No, I did not.
You said, there is nothing that can convince me.
Think of anything.
Listen. You said, there is nothing that can convince you, and compelling evidence can convince you. Which one is the truth? Because they are contradictory. Which one?
I don't know what it is.
They are contradictory statements. Can you make a statement which is not contradictory? Nothing can convince me. Compelling evidence can convince me. Which one?
You haven't given me any compelling evidence.
No. You made two statements. Choose one. Brother, you made two contradictory statements in one breath, almost.
Yes.
Nothing can convince me. Compelling evidence can convince me. Which one?
I'll go for the compelling evidence.
Right. So that means. Wait.
I've got all the evidence I found.
Please listen.
And nothing's convinced me.
Please listen.
I've never found any compelling evidence.
My friend. So you have to say, it's not nothing that will convince me. Yeah. Something can convince me.
Okay, let's try.
Good.
So stop to the evidence.
Wait.
That's why I say nothing.
Slowly.
It's
so
too late.
Tell me what that's something.
I don't know what it is.
So how can we give it to you? If you have no idea what there's something.
What would have convinced me?
No. Today, now.
In the past.
No. Today, now.
It's too late.
So you're now.
Too much now. We see too much now.
So now you're saying again, today there can be compelling evidence, but I don't know what that is.
Because it's all.
You need to help yourself so that we can help you. You cannot. You see, you cannot.
We know too much about science.
Listen.
About diseases, about religions, about people, about what fools people. We know too much.
So
he's searching for something. He says he's going to die. You want to go
brother, please. Without any commentaries. You believe there is something that can convince you.
I've seen it.
There is something, right?
Maybe there is something in it.
Not maybe, there is, because you said it cannot be nothing. You have to take one or the other. So there is something that can convince you, if it's compelling.
I've never found anything that will convince me.
No, it's not what you found.
I've looked.
No.
Yes, I have. I've looked.
My friend, you're not listening
Too late.
attentively. In principle, there can be something that can convince you if it's compelling.
In theory, yes.
Good, in theory. Good. So what I would now request you is this. I have known you for many years in this spot. Yeah? Many years. I would like you to kindly go and sit down in your own time. Listen.
I've done that.
Listen.
I've read the Bible. I've read the Quran twice.
You don't know what I'm demanding or requesting.
I've thought about God.
Listen to him.
You see?
Thinking about God since I was 7 years old.
You're not listening to what I'm going to say.
I've been studying evidence of God since I was 7.
Listen, I am simply saying, because in principle you accept there can be something that can convince you if it's compelling to accept as a creator, I would like you to spend some time to find out what that thing can be, so that when you ask of us, we can give it to you. Yep. So now let's move on. Thank you. So this is your homework. This is your homework. So as I was saying,
I've done that.
No, you haven't done it. Yes, do it now.
I've been thinking about it since I was 7 years old, and I haven't found it yet. It's not there.
Okay. What were the things that you
can't think of anything.
Okay. Wait. Because from year 7, or when you were 7 years old to your age today, you have looked for things that might be compelling.
Yes.
Give me a few examples that you thought could have been compelling, but it wasn't.
Okay, right. If all over the world, there have been prophets
That's
all over the world.
Today, not the past. Today. No, give me the things that you search that from today, when you're 7-year-old, or 8, or 25, or 40, that the moment that you're reflecting, if this thing was presented to you, you would be compelled to accept. Don't talk about the past which you cannot change. So what were the examples that you thought about?
I can't think of anything today.
So basically,
everything today is going to be full, full people, flaws of the human brain.
so you haven't really thought about anything like that?
Yes, we have.
No.
We have thought about
So
it.
listen, my friend, I am simply asking you for a very simple thing.
And I can't do it to you.
Listen,
I've done that.
No,
I told you I've been doing this since I was 7 years old.
listen, you're not
That's
listening.
no point me doing it further. I've been doing it all my life.
What I am,
My life
okay,
I've
let's see,
been doing it.
let's see if my sister in humanity understands what I'm saying. I am saying, do not demand on you. Things will be compelling that in the past, if it was like that, then I would believe. You can't change the past. So you cannot,
Exactly, that's why
let me finish.
failed in the past.
Let me finish.
Failed now.
You should not put forth a criteria that you cannot use because you cannot change the past. If you had the,
I know all that.
can you let me finish?
But today we have communication.
Can you let me finish, right? Can you let me finish?
Nothing works.
Perhaps you'd understand where I'm coming from.
I know where you're coming from.
You cannot put forth a criteria of acceptability. Yeah? If it's a good
You can't
criteria.
give me a single thing to believe in.
You know,
You can't do
subhanallah,
it.
meaning,
All you're
praise
doing
be
is
to
bouncing
Allah,
on-
glorified be He.
It's simple. You
Listen,
can't
listen,
think of
listen.
anything that will convince me. You
My
cannot
friend,
think of anything.
try to understand.
I can't think of anything.
If-
You can't think of anything.
If, for example, I want to know that this camera is made by Canon or not,
Yeah.
I cannot put forward a criteria say, you know what, if all the cameras in the world were made by Canon, I would believe it's by Canon. But I know all the cameras in the world were not made by Canon. I cannot make a criteria which is totally invalid.
Yes, that's right.
I have to set forth a criteria which I can test. Having fun. If I'm going to use a method, this method must be testable, verifiable. The method that you are putting forth for your acceptability of a creator is something that you cannot test or assess or verify. You're saying the only method that would have convinced me is the method of history, but you cannot go back in history. So it is a method that you have put forth willingly, knowing that no one can use this method.
Something, give me something.
Yeah? So you have now what we call self-deceit. Brother, please. You have put forward a self-deceiving argument that knowing that you cannot traverse the historical past. So demanding if the past was like that, then I would believe is a self-deceit. It's a deceiving argument to your own self.
I know too much about the world today to know how it can be fooled. So if it's just say a voice appeared in the sky, God appeared in the sky and spoke to me.
Yeah. Would you believe?
How would I know that wasn't delusion?
Did you not say that?
How do I know that was delusion?
Did you not say that earlier
How
on?
do I know that wasn't?
You see, he's clever enough to say that he was not going to demand that because he knows that now, if I said, what about God comes to you and speaks to you, I'm God, he will say, magic, I'm deluded, it's a delusion. So
Do we know?
what would convince you
I don't
is something
know.
that
You can't tell me.
that
You can't think of anything.
you-
I can't think of anything. You can't think of anything.
so because
Against her,
So what's your point?
He's not trying to convince me.
Why are you, if you are
of
not
course he is. It's no point.
I'm learning from him.
He's learning from him because he cannot convince you.
what's your point?
Just,
My point is,
It's
the
over,
argument
isn't
to
it?
God fails.
he cannot convince you.
Information that you research it. That's the difference. Not just listen to it and reject it. You have to process.
I haven't given you arguments for God yet. I'm simply saying when we examine this, thank you, when we examine this universe, there are a lot of things that we can
They're bad arguments. I know the arguments. I've heard
extrapolate from it, make inference of by studying this universe. Like the gravity that we examined, that we don't see gravity,
There's something good you
we don't hear it, we don't feel it, we don't touch it, we don't sense it. The only thing that we see the effects of it. So from the effects, we accept the existence of a gravitational force
because you're walking
or something. Gravity. This universe also demonstrates from the workings of this universe that it's an effect of a cause that has put this universe in place.
have a brain.
So this is not an argument for God, it's simply saying, look at this universe and you make inferences. If you say this universe has self-created itself, that's one argument. That means at one point the universe it was non-existent, and then it created itself. Again, this is an argument which is totally invalid. Why? If you're non-existent to begin with, you cannot create yourself because you don't have the energy. You're non-existent. To make something, you need energy. So the universe could not have self-created. So the universe has to be either brought into existence by something external to it. Now this external agent for this universe is one of many causes or the one and only cause.
It doesn't matter what the other ideas are, but when you
possibilities exist.
You can have an idea.
Let's say it is one of many causes. This universe was caused by an external agent called A. A caused this universe to come into existence.
The most likely answer is we're living in a simulation. Who created?
Did it answer our question? It's just simply shifted our question to another level. What caused A? That caused the universe. So we can ask, okay, the answer may be B caused A. That caused the universe. What caused B? Now you can go on and on ad infinitum, where there is infinite number of causes for this universe. Or, actually, when we look at the causes of the universe, maybe there's a cause at one point. You see, we are simultaneously talking about the same argument. At one point, maybe there's a cause beyond which there wasn't an external cause beyond that. Okay? Now we can use our rationality and find out which makes sense. If there are chains of creators or causes for our universe, can we rationally explain the existence of our universe? Can I give you an example to illustrate in a different way? Okay, this is a phone. It's an object that needs to physically go from my hand to his hand. Okay, so that's like the action. Okay, okay. Now, this phone, to go from my hand to my brother's hand there, it has to pass infinite number of hands in between. Infinite number of hands. He has to go through every single other infinite hands to go to his hands. My question is this. Would my phone ever reach his hand if there are infinite number of people in between? Infinite. Never ending.
Then what created that? Nothing.
No. Never. Because there's always someone in front of him. It will never reach his hand. Okay? So we understand one thing, that if there are infinite number of causes for something, that action, the final action, is not going to take place. This universe, if it was the final action of all these creators in the past, the universe will not come into existence. Because there will be someone else creating another god. Creating another god, the universe will not be created.
So a spark.
Because the universe is here, it seals the argument. There wasn't infinite number of creators or causation for our universe. Our causes for our universe has to be finite. At one point there is a cause or a creator beyond which there is no other cause. That's what we call is the first cause. Aristotle called it primordial. The primary cause, which is uncaused. Has to be. Because if you are the only one there and you have no cause before that, then you must be uncaused. So we say when our universe is here, there has to be a cause of our universe which is uncaused, which is absolute. If something is absolute, which has no beginning, it is eternal with no beginning. If it's eternal with no beginning, nothing brought it into existence, this cause. Nothing can remove it from existence. Nothing will have that power. So that thing not only will be eternal, it will also be everlasting with no end. And that thing will be one. It won't be more than one. We've already covered that example about more than one entities being the cause of this universe. So you have one being who is eternal with no beginning, everlasting with no end. If you have such a being, this being will be unique, absolutely unique, compared to everything else, because there's nothing like it. There will be nothing like this being. Now look, I just speculated about this universe. This is a translation of our scripture called the Quran.
And that caused...
There's a small chapter in the Quran. Okay? Very small chapter. It's called chapter The Purity of Faith.
Energy just exists.
Only 2 lines in English.
Where did God come from?
But look what it describes, what we believe about the Creator. He's asking us, say, He is God, the one, God, the eternal. He beget not, no one, nor was he begotten. None is comparable to him. This is what Revelation confirms, our speculation. There is a God who is one and only, eternal, absolute. He is not born, neither does he give birth, meaning he is not a father of anyone or a child of anyone, totally unique, independent, and because he's like this, one, eternal, independent, there's nothing comparable to him. That's what we believe about the Creator. So our intellectual speculation, the scripture confirms. We don't rely only on our speculations. So when you examine Islam and the Quran, you will find that your intellect and your rationality, if you use it and you examine the Quran, it will resonate with the Quran. That your heart and your mind will accept it. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense here. It makes sense here in my heart and in my mind. This is exactly what I would expect it to be. So when the Quran describes God, it describes God in a way that you will realize it knows you more than you know yourself. I mean, who can know you better than yourself? Your parents knew at one point your behaviors, but your current behavior, current thinking, no one knows. Unless you tell your best friends, no one will know. But when the Quran describes your inner secrets, inner thoughts, you will suddenly wake up. How is that possible? So we invite you, like you're reading and studying every other book that you want to study, when you examine the Quran, study with this thing in mind. If I expect this book to be from the one and only Creator, what do I expect? I expect perfect descriptions of this one and only Creator. I expect this Creator telling me about who I am, where I come from, where am I going, what's going to happen to me if I die, is there life after death? How do I live my life in this life? Is there a particular way I have to live my life, or I'm free to do anything I do? So if you concentrate with this thing in mind, you will see that the Quran, even though you're reading a translation, you will still get this message that the Quran describes to you that your heart and your mind will accept. So if the Quran said,
today's unknown is tomorrow's.
There are people who have taken their own desires as their own God. You reflect around the world and you will see how this is the case. They want to follow their own desires and they make their desire their guide, their living principle in this life. I live what makes me happy. I live according to the way I think will make me joyous and comfortable in this life. They've made their own desires. Even though they knew, as the Quran said, the Quran asked them,
so you're agnostic, are you agnostic then?
were they created from nothingness? Did they create themselves? Did they create the heaven and the earth? And the Quran rhetorically asked, nay, they have no firm belief. So if an atheist, a self-declared atheist, who says there is no creator, nothingness created them, they did not create their own selves, they did not create the heaven and the earth, the stars and the nebula and the galaxy, they know something else did. Then why is it that they're reluctant to accept? Because they've made their own desires and their own God. Because they don't want to accept and they don't want to, recognize there's something greater than them, something higher than them that exists. This is one of the things that was one of the first things in the history of human beings was realized. When the first human being was created, you had another being called the jinns in a spiritual world, right? When God created and asked the angels and someone called Iblis, he was a jinn, prostrate to Adam. Now this prostrate is not prostration for worship. God commands you to prostrate, so that was a prostrate to respect at that time. If you are in front of God, and you know God exists, God is your Lord, He can vaporize you instant if you disobey Him. But you disobey if you have the free will, willingly, right? So the angels, all of them prostrated. The one that didn't prostrate, the jinn, was Iblis. And when God asked him, why did you not prostrate when I commanded you to do so? He says, why should I prostrate to someone? You made him from clay and you made me from smokeless fire. I'm better than him. I am better than him. How am I going to show my respect? So his arrogance, his pride came into play. He thought, why am I going to do that? I'm better than him. The idea that I'm better than him goes, so much in the blood and culture and thoughts of people today. I'm better than you. I'm a better nation than you. I'm better than you. This is something that the Quran says no. It may be that there are nations that are better than you. Why do you think you're better? It could be someone who's better than you. In fact, it may be that they are better than you. So do not despise of others. Do not criticize others in the sense of, and put them down. They may be better than you. So our principle is in Islam is something like this. God created everyone, and all are equal in the sight of God. So there's no question of racism, no cases of race differences or differences of hierarchy, like you are from the Brahmin, you are Kshatriya, you are Shudra, untouchables. Have you heard of the untouchables of the Indians? In the Indian philosophy or religion, they're like classes of human beings born in that way. You cannot change it. You are born to serve the upper class, the Brahmins. You are the ones to only clean the dirt and so on and so forth. You cannot, by right, you cannot learn, hear learning, or do any kind of things. So you're like, God made you into this class, not even a working class, but not even third class, very last class, untouchables. And God made the Brahmins where they will be the elites. They will learn the Vedas, the scripture of the Hindus and so on and so forth. And if a Shudra were to hear the Veda, the scripture, you should put hot oil in his ears. If you were to speak the Veda, you should cut his tongue. That's the punishment, right? Islam says no. Human beings are not created like this, classes. All are equal in the sight of God, but there's only one difference. Who is most righteous and pious? You can elevate yourself, even though you are on equal status. Who is the most righteous among you in the sight of God? So you compete with each other in piety and righteousness. Yeah. So we can say, mashallah, Allah has blessed you with knowledge and righteousness. So in that sense, you can say, but you can't have jealousy and say, you know what, I want you to come away from, I rip your knowledge and your piety and God consciousness. No, you should wish him to be better and maybe wish for yourself as well. May God make me in an elevated status like this. So if you look at the scripture called the Quran, this is what the Quran describes about us. If you look at what it describes about God, it describes in a way that you will see that God is described as He is God, besides Him there is no one else worthy of worship. Everything else is not worthy of worship, because the one who is worthy of worship is the one who created you and the one who is going to cause you to die. And that is God only. God gave you life and He causes you to die. He is the one who is going to be the judge in the day of judgment, no one else. So Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, that we say is the mighty messenger of God, the last prophet of God, he will also be in the day of judgment saying, can you imagine, like, not that, oh, I'm going to judge you, and no, because everyone will be judged by God. All the prophets, okay, they will be thinking about maybe their people, that so on, like our Prophet will be thinking about his people, like his communities, but he is now in the every single individual in the mercy of God, even though the Prophet has been guaranteed paradise. Okay? But still, it is God who guaranteed the paradise. So no one is going to be like, oh, you know what? There were about few companions of the Prophet. Within their lifetime, they were guaranteed and promised paradise. We call 10 of them, okay, who received the glad tidings of paradise. How did they behave afterwards? He says, okay, that's it. Open license to paradise and let me just do whatever I want to do. No. They didn't. It didn't change them. If you look at how people lived, I'm going to give you two examples. When the Prophet ﷺ died, having control of 1/3 of the world around, not 1/3, a little bit less, I think. After him, within 30 years, it was much longer. Control of so much land and people from all different times, different places, sorry, when he was a prophet, because they were conquering lands and opening up the lands to Islam. You would expect those people who have fallen, he will be like a king, living like a king in a palace with all this wealth and so on and so forth. Do you know how he lived? You know what was his pillow like? A brick. He had maybe a shield that one of the Jewish individual has given to him for security, because they knew and trusted him as a trustworthy, reliable person. They used to, give him sometimes to look after them. Okay. Maybe some dates and some barley or something like this. His bed was made of, date palm stick leaves, like the straws from this. A little bit of water and so on. That's it. That's what he left behind. If you saw that, you would say even a poor people has more than that. Even a poor person has more than this. And yet, he could have had, gold and silver and all these things, overflowing. He probably won't be able to open his door until all of this wealth. Muslims had, some of the Muslims didn't go for any of that. Why? What about his companions that believed in him? Well, at one point, Umar ibn al-Khattab, through his Khalifa-ship, the Jerusalem fell from the Christian hand to the Muslim hand. Okay? And they wanted to give the keys to the Khalif. So the Khalif, he was asked to go, and he said, I will go. How did he go? With all his troops and so on, to show like I am, the king of the Muslims? No, he said, okay. He accompanied with him one individual with him, who will be, going along with him, his companion. And is it a camel or a horse, right? I can't remember exactly. How did they go? You would expect the Khalif of the Muslim land, where now he's going to get the keys of Jerusalem. He will be sitting on the camel and going all the way. That's not how it went. They agreed between themselves. You know what? We take in turns. When I sit, you tread along the camel with the rope, and we do in turns, because it's a long journey. Okay? So, as he went, came to Jerusalem, and this was the time for his companion, person who works for him. What did he do? He says, I'm sorry, you can't do that. I'm the Khalif, right? I have to be on the horse. He didn't do that. He says, no, you get up. So he got up, his companion, and the Khalif was taking the horse in his hand. Their clothes were all in dust and so on because of the journey and so on. And then they came to the Khalif. They were surprised, like, this is your king? So they were speaking to the one who's on the camel. Yes, no. That's my Khalif. That's the one who's treading the horse. They recognize this. This is how Islam has taught people to be humble, not to be man or woman of pride and to boast around. He could have done all that. He didn't do any of that. This is a companion, a student of the Prophet ﷺ. So we have this belief that, Allah has raised the Prophet لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمُ الْأَخْلَاقِ, to perfect the nobility of the character of human being. You are noble, you are noble. You're not deprived, you're born with. You don't have a negative bank account when you're born with. You are a noble human being. But God wants you to have perfection in your nobility of your character. So how you do that is a whole training program. Islam gives you a training program. In Ramadan, for example, it tells you how to give up the things you love so much. Your food and your drinks and your relationship with your spouse and so on. You give all that away. you abstain from it. So when you're training yourself from this for, pleasure of Allah, you can. So if a Muslim sees like, whose next lottery is what? 15 million pounds. So what? I don't gamble. Gamble is people who are selfish. Allah asked me to work with my own hands. I work with my own hands. I'm not going to gamble. Allah says no to gambling, I don't gamble. So this kind of allurement, Muslims will feel that, why do I have to do that? It will change and transform you into an individual who is compassionate and kind and say, look, I'm not going to just sit there like a lazy couch potato. I'm going to work. I'm going to earn my money. And if my brother needs help, I will help him. I will help her. So if somebody wants help from me, I'm not going to give him like, brother, I need some money for extension of my house. I need about 20,000 pounds. And he realized, opportunity.
You have to check it.
You know what? Okay, give me 28% in return more. And he says, okay, I'm just making. I'm not very good at maths, as you can see. I'm not going to be able to calculate it. But let's say, 20,000 pounds. Give me 38,000 pounds later. I'll just make this figure up. What he did at this minute is, as from his greed, he exploited and abused my weakness. I was in need. I needed his help. Instead of showing me empathy, compassion, and kindness, he took the moment and exploited it from his greed. You know what Islam says about that? Not allowed. Not allowed. No usury. God and His Messenger has declared war on interest and usury. No. Give whatever in return that you take from me. That's it. Don't demand anything back. So that really shows that, okay, when I'm in help, I can have that. If you want to do business, of course you can make profit, but not this kind of ugly exploitation of the people. You know how the world is enslaved to the World Bank and other world, Western world powers who have given this loans to the others, they've enslaved them. The problem we find is because of this, people's greed. So Islam tells us about this kind of things. Human relationship has to be conducted in such a way that you show kindness and empathy and not greed. You don't be jealous in yourself. There's no jealousy, except the one jealousy is where you want him to have more, her to more. That's not jealousy, because when you are jealous, you don't want them to have that thing. You want it to be taken away, right? But Islam says no. You expect them, make prayer that they have more, so you have as well same like them, and they have more. So the relationship that He described in the Quran about interactions of human beings, you will see that it resonates within your heart. Yes, it makes sense to me. It is a belief where it gives me the highest morals and standards. It tells me that I have to be just even if it is against my own self or my kith and kin. Oh, if I'm the king and my son or my daughter commits a crime, equal justice? How can that be? But that's what happens in the world today, right? The son or the daughter, the prince or the princesses, when they commit a crime, they get away. When the kings or the monarchs or the prime ministers, someone within the cabinet and so on, they just want to let them go away. Diplomatic immunity. Yeah? They are not to be punished. Islam says no. You know what the Prophet of Islam said? If Fatima, the daughter of Muhammad were to steal, chop her hands off. A punishment. No favoritism. What is it called? Is it nepotism or this kind of favoritism that you have for family? When you say no, what is that term called?
Especially associated with that practice.
What is it called when somebody shows favoritism because your family and your nepotism? Nothing to that in Islam. Isn't it in Harvard or somewhere, law school, they have a plaque about, this verse in the Quran. Establish justice, show justice, be straight in justice.
The Library of Congress.
I think it's in Harvard. The entrance.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's one of these they put up there because it's an epitome of justice. Because they recognize this is a statement that everyone should aspire and uphold, even if it's against you and your own self. Imagine the concept. You did something wrong. You are not beyond the law. Your family, your relative, your children, your parents did something wrong, you're not beyond the law. How just can it be? Can you have anything more just than that? No. So Islamic ideals, when you examine the Quran, so I'm giving you some hints how to read the Quran, and you look at how the Quran gives you all this, standards of interactions, beings, you will say, that sounds like it's coming from the Most High, the Most Just. It's not coming from an individual who would want to circumvent nepotism and favoritism. To give you an example, with no disrespect to my friends in Judaism and Christianity, in the Old Testament, the Jewish people, they can take interest from the Goyims, the non-Jew. But between the Jew, no interest. So between themselves, they're not going to deal with interest. But everyone else, yeah. Do you see the comparison? So when we talk about the creator of the heavens and the earth, the Quran gives us so many things to ponder upon. It says, how can you disbelieve in God when you are dead and without life? It says like this, كيف تكفرون بالله وكنتم أمواتا فأحياكم ثم يميتكم ثم يحييكم ثم إليه ترجعون. How can you disbelieve in God when you are lifeless and He gave you life? Then you will be dead again. He calls you to die again, and He will resurrect you again, and then you will return to Him. And the Quran says, فَاطِرِ أَفِي اللَّهِ شَكٌّ فَاطِرِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. How can you have doubt on Him? The one who cleaved asunder the heaven and the earth, who separated the heaven and the earth, who originated the heaven and the earth. How can you have a doubt? Like we said, the universe went as it is, you can't have a doubt. So the Quran asks us to think and ponder, and it really intellectually hits you, gives you all these arguments.
كن سعيدا كن فريدا عش بفخر في الحياة لا تبالي فالمعالي بالتحدي لا